Welcome back to 50 Psychological Tricks So Twisted, They'll Transform the Way You Think. In Part 1, we explored how your mind misleads itself. Now, Part 2 reveals how the world takes advantage of those weaknesses, using persuasion, pressure, and subtle psychological tactics to steer your behavior from the outside. Let's dive in. Trick 1. Reverse psychology. Your 16-year-old son storms into the room defiant and stubborn. You want him to clean his room, but you know a direct order will trigger rebellion. So you say calmly, "Actually, don't worry about it. I don't need you to do that." Within an hour, he's cleaning without being asked. This is reverse psychology, where prohibition activates the instinct to resist, making people want to do the very thing you told them not to do, just to prove their autonomy. When you forbid something, the brain interprets it as a challenge rather than guidance. The human need for independence is so powerful that the moment someone feels control, they automatically push back. This isn't defiance, it's the brain defending its freedom. Reverse psychology doesn't force compliance. It creates space for people to choose while making them believe it was entirely their idea. Your wife is exhausted, but refuses to rest. You say, "Just relax. I can handle this myself." Suddenly, she's helping without resentment. An employee hesitates on a difficult project. You mention, "This might be too challenging, I'll assign someone else." They immediately volunteer, eager to prove themselves. In negotiations, you say casually, "You probably won't agree to this," and your counterpart feels compelled to demonstrate their reasonableness by agreeing. The pattern repeats, withdraw the request, and they chase it. Here's what most people miss. This isn't manipulation, it's creating the conditions for autonomous choice. People don't resist the action itself, they resist feeling controlled. Remove the control, and resistance evaporates. The person gets to feel independent while doing exactly what you needed them to do. This technique only works on people with strong egos, those who need to prove their autonomy and capability. On passive or insecure individuals, reverse psychology backfires completely because they'll simply accept your initial statement at face value. Use it only with people who have something to prove. The tone matters critically as well. Neutral and offhand, never challenging or sarcastic. The moment they sense you're testing them, the technique fails. Smart people don't force others to act. They make others want to act. Trick 2. The Pygmalion effect. Your boss pulls you aside and says, "You're the only person who can complete this project." Something shifts inside you. You work late into the night, skip meals, pour everything you have into it. 3 months later, you deliver results that surprise even yourself. This is the Pygmalion effect, where high expectations create positive pressure that makes people stretch beyond what they thought possible simply because someone believed they could. High expectations don't just motivate, they transform identity. When someone you respect tells you they believe in your capability, your brain rewrites its self-image. You're no longer trying to meet their standard. You're becoming the person they already see. The expectation unlocks potential that was always there, but never activated. A father tells his struggling child, "I know you can do this." And suddenly the child studies harder, not from fear, but from wanting to prove that faith justified. A husband tells his wife, "You're the only person who truly understands me." And she feels special, irreplaceable, which deepens her investment in the relationship. A manager assigns a challenging task with the words, "I trust you with this." and the employee exceeds every benchmark because they're living up to that trust. The belief itself becomes the catalyst. Here's the counterintuitive truth: people don't become capable through expectations. They already are capable. High expectations simply unlock what was dormant. The potential existed. The belief provides permission to access it. This only works when the belief is genuine. People sense fake confidence instantly, and it destroys trust rather than building it. The expectation must be paired with real support, not just empty words. You can't say, "I believe in you," and then provide no resources or guidance. The belief opens the door, but support helps them walk through it. Celebrate small wins along the way. Progress reinforced becomes progress multiplied. Want others to improve. Believe they're better. Genuine faith is the most powerful motivation that exists. Trick 3. The self-fulfilling prophecy. You wake up and tell yourself, "Today's meeting will go perfectly." You prepare thoroughly, you walk in confident, and the meeting exceeds expectations. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy, where what you believe becomes what you do, and what you do creates the exact outcome you predicted. Your brain doesn't distinguish between prediction and intention. When you believe something will happen, you unconsciously align all your actions to make it true. Belief shapes behavior. Behavior shapes reality, and reality confirms belief. The prophecy fulfills itself, not because you saw the future, but because you created it. You believe your boss dislikes you, so you avoid interactions. Your absence makes the boss think you're disengaged, so the relationship sours, confirming your original belief. You believe your child is intelligent, so you invest in their education, read to them, constantly challenge them intellectually. The child develops real intelligence, proving your belief correct. You believe you'll become wealthy, so you spot opportunities others miss. Take calculated risks, persist through failures. Eventually, wealth arrives exactly as you predicted. Here's what people don't understand. Your brain doesn't differentiate between prediction and desire. It simply converts whatever you believe into actions that manifest that belief. You're not predicting the future, you're programming it. For yourself, choose positive prophecies deliberately. I will succeed at this. This will work out. I am capable. The words you repeat to yourself become the blueprint your brain follows. For others, speak expectations aloud. You're going to excel at this. I know this will turn out well. Your voiced belief becomes their internal programming. Track your prophecies in writing. Notice which ones manifest and which don't. You'll discover that you're not fortune-telling, you're reality-building. You don't predict the future. You create it with belief. Trick 4. The reciprocity principle. You send a client an unexpected gift, something small and thoughtful. 6 months later, they refer 5 new customers to you without being asked. This is the reciprocity principle, where receiving a favor creates a sense of debt so powerful, it overrides logic and self-interest. When someone does something for you, your brain feels an obligation to return the gesture. This isn't politeness. It's a deep psychological discomfort with being indebted. The urge to reciprocate is so strong that people will often return favors that far exceed what they received, just to eliminate the feeling of owing someone. You help a business partner without expecting anything in return. Months later, when you need something, they go out of their way to assist you. You do household chores without your wife asking. she automatically starts paying more attention to your needs without conscious effort. In networking, you introduce clients to others first with no immediate benefit. Later, those people enthusiastically introduce valuable contacts to you. The pattern holds: give first, receive, multiplied later. Here's the crucial distinction. This is not give to get, which is transactional calculation. This is give without conditions, which triggers exponential returns you never expected. Calculated giving feels manipulative and people resist it. Genuine giving creates authentic reciprocity that compounds over time. Give early, give generously, give quietly. Never remind people, "I helped you before," because that destroys the reciprocity instinct and replaces it with resentment. If someone doesn't reciprocate, that's fine, because not everyone understands this principle, but enough people do that. The returns still multiply beyond your investment. Wealthy people give before they need. Poor people give after they receive. Trick 5. The Ben Franklin effect. Your rival dislikes you intensely. Instead of trying to win them over with favors, you ask them for a small favor, borrowing a book or requesting advice. Their brain rationalized, "I helped this person, so I must like them." Within weeks, they've become friendly. This is the Ben Franklin effect, where doing someone a favor makes you like them more, because your brain needs to justify why you helped them in the first place. When you help someone, your mind experiences cognitive dissonance. Why did I help this person? The easiest resolution is to decide, I must like them. Once your brain makes that adjustment, the feeling becomes real. You've convinced yourself through your own actions. Your boss is difficult and critical. You ask for their expert opinion on a work matter. They feel respected and valued, and suddenly they're treating you more favorably. You've been estranged from a sibling for years. You ask to borrow a tool or a book. The small interaction creates a bridge, and they become warmer. A cold client shows no interest in buying. You ask for feedback on your product. They invest time and emotional energy into responding. Once invested, they don't want that effort wasted, so they become more engaged with your business. Here's the psychological mechanism they don't teach. When people invest in you, even with something small like time or advice, they don't want to lose that investment. Their brain tells them, I put effort into this person, so I must continue supporting them. Investment creates commitment. Commitment creates loyalty. The favor must be small and easy to fulfill. If you ask for something large, they'll refuse, and the technique fails. Once they help express genuine gratitude, this reinforces their positive feelings about the interaction. After some time passes, you can ask for another small favor, gradually building the relationship through repeated micro-investments they make in you. Want people to like you? Don't help them too much. Let them help you. Trick 6. Cognitive dissonance. An employee complains about low salary. Instead of offering a raise, you assign them an important new responsibility. Within weeks, they stop complaining and start telling themselves, I must be valuable if I'm trusted with this work. This is cognitive dissonance, where actions that contradict thoughts force the brain to change the thoughts to match the actions. Your brain hates contradiction. When what you do conflicts with what you believe, the discomfort is unbearable. But here's the twist. Instead of changing behavior to match beliefs, the brain often changes beliefs to match behavior. It's easier to rewrite your story than to admit you're acting against your own interests. A customer tries your product for free. After using it for a week, their brain thinks, "I'm using this, so I must like it." They buy. A child who hates reading is required to read 5 minutes daily. After a month, their brain rationalizes. "I read every day, so I must enjoy reading." Your wife doesn't want to move houses. You take her to view new properties repeatedly. She starts imagining life there, decorating in her mind. Her brain begins convincing her that moving is actually what she wants. The action came first, the desire followed. Here's what manipulators understand. The brain hates inconsistency and will resolve it automatically. Your job isn't to argue or convince, it's to create the action. Once someone acts, their brain does the persuading for you. Don't waste energy on debates. Create small actions instead and let their brain handle the rest. Instead of trying to convince someone to join a gym, invite them for a 10-minute walk. After they've walked with you several times, their brain decides, "I must enjoy exercise." The behavior creates the belief, not the other way around. Keep the initial actions small and non-threatening. Big commitments trigger resistance. Tiny steps trigger cognitive shifts. Persuasion doesn't happen through words. Persuasion happens through small actions. Trick 7. The priming effect. Before an important negotiation, you spend 5 minutes discussing generosity and mutual benefit. When the actual deal begins, your counterpart unconsciously acts more generous than they planned. This is the priming effect, where activating an idea or emotion influences behavior afterward, without anyone realizing it happened. Your brain is constantly being primed by everything around you. Words you hear, images you see, even colors on a wall shape your thoughts and decisions in ways you never consciously notice. Prime someone with concepts of cooperation, and they cooperate. Prime them with competition, and they fight. The environment programs the response before logic ever gets involved. You're interviewing candidates in a room with photographs of successful leaders on the walls. Candidates unconsciously mirror that confidence and perform better. Before your child studies, you show them a video of someone achieving success through hard work. Your child focuses more intensely without understanding why. Your sales website uses blue coloring, which primes feelings of trust and reliability, versus red, which primes urgency. Visitors make different purchasing decisions based purely on color, never realizing they were influenced. Here's the truth they don't teach. Environment shapes thoughts more powerfully than words ever could. If you control the environment, you control the outcome. The priming happens invisibly, which makes it far more effective than overt persuasion. Before any important meeting, listen to confident music or read inspiring quotes. Prime yourself first. With your family, design your home environment deliberately. Display photos of happy memories to prime feelings of joy and connection. In negotiations, casually mention win-win and partnership before discussing terms. Those words prime cooperative behavior without them realizing it. The priming must feel natural, not forced. If people sense you're trying to manipulate their emotions, the effect reverses. The brain is influenced by what it encountered before. Smart people control that before. Trick 8. The peak end rule. A 2-hour meeting drags on boring and unproductive. In the final 10 minutes, someone shares a breakthrough insight. When people leave, they remember it as an excellent meeting. This is the peak end rule, where the brain only stores 2 moments. The peak, the most intense point, whether positive or negative, and the end, the final impression. Your brain doesn't record experiences chronologically or completely. It takes shortcuts by remembering only the emotional high point and the concluding moment. Everything else fades. This is why a mediocre vacation with one spectacular sunset is remembered as amazing, while a mostly pleasant vacation that ends with a flight delay is remembered as disappointing. Customer service resolves a problem adequately, nothing special. But at the very end, they include a small, unexpected gift. The customer remembers incredible service, even though most of the interaction was average. A date is pleasant but ordinary. It concludes with a romantic sunset moment. Years later, your wife recalls that perfect evening. Your presentation has mediocre content, but you end with a deeply moving personal story. The audience never forgets it, and they think your entire talk was brilliant. Here's what most people miss. The process matters far less than the peak and the end. You can have a mostly difficult experience, but if it peaks with something remarkable and ends positively, memory records it as excellent. Conversely, you can deliver excellence for hours, but a bad ending destroys everything. Design one peak moment deliberately, something unexpected and emotionally powerful. It doesn't need to be expensive or elaborate, just memorable. Always end on a positive note, even when the process was challenging. If a project fails, hold a closing meeting focused on valuable lessons learned and our new plan moving forward. The team will remember resilience and growth rather than failure. Never let anything important end badly if you can avoid it. The ending is what stays. A good ending can redeem a terrible process. A bad ending destroys a perfect process. Trick 9. The Zeigarnik effect. You're telling a fascinating story, building tension and intrigue. At 80% completion, you stop mid-sentence and say, "I'll finish this tomorrow." For the rest of the day, they can't stop thinking about you or that story. This is the Zeigarnik effect, where the brain hates unfinished business and keeps incomplete tasks cycling in memory until they're resolved. Completed tasks get filed away and forgotten. Incomplete tasks stay active in your mind, nagging at you, refusing to let go. This mental tension creates obsession. The brain treats unfinished things as open loops that must be closed, and it won't rest until closure arrives. TV shows end episodes on cliffhangers, leaving viewers desperate for the next installment. You assign a work task, but deliberately withhold one key piece of information. Instead of asking for it, your employee researches obsessively because their brain can't tolerate leaving the task incomplete. In marketing, you send an email with a subject line. "Did you know?" and don't provide the answer in the preview. Curiosity drives them to click because the open loop demands closure. Here's the counterintuitive insight: completion equals forgetting. Incompletion equals obsession. If you want someone to remember, you leave something slightly unfinished. End conversations at the interesting point, not after interest has faded. Leave while they still want more. At work, start a project with your team, but let them complete it. When they finish something they own it psychologically, far more than if you handed them something complete. In content creation, use teasers that don't reveal everything. Let the audience search for the rest, because their brain won't let them stop thinking about it until they find closure. The person remembered most isn't the one who tells everything. It's the one who knows when to stop. Trick 10. The placebo effect. You hand someone a pill and say, "This is an extremely powerful pain reliever." Within minutes, their pain vanishes. Later, they discover it was just a vitamin. The pain relief was real, but it came entirely from their belief. This is the placebo effect, where believing something will work activates the brain's chemistry to create real, measurable results. Belief doesn't just change feelings, it changes biology. When you genuinely believe a treatment will help, your brain releases endorphins, reduces stress hormones, and triggers actual healing responses. The power isn't in the pill, it's in the conviction that the pill works. Your mind convinces your body to heal itself. You tell your team, "This new strategy helped Company X grow 300%, and suddenly they execute with more energy and creativity, even though the strategy is perfectly ordinary." The belief in its effectiveness makes them work differently. You tell yourself every morning, "Today will be excellent," and your brain actively searches for evidence to confirm that belief. The day genuinely becomes better because you're primed to notice and create positive moments. A coach says, "This technique was used by Steve Jobs," and students apply it with more focus and commitment than they would to an identical technique without the impressive attribution. Here's what people misunderstand. The placebo effect isn't deception or trickery. It's harnessing the brain's genuine power to heal, perform, and succeed through belief. The mechanism is real. The results are real. Only the source is different than expected. Never say, "This might not work," or "I'm not sure about this." Those phrases plant doubt and activate the nocebo effect instead. Say, "This is highly effective with conviction." Believe it yourself. First, genuinely, then transmit that belief to others. When you prepare for an important meeting, tell yourself and your team, "This will be a breakthrough session." That belief shapes preparation, shapes energy, shapes outcomes. The breakthrough becomes real because everyone acted as if it already was. Belief doesn't just change feelings. Belief changes physiology. What you believe becomes what is real. Trick 11. The mere exposure effect. You meet a potential client 5 times over 2 months, never pitching, just brief friendly conversations. On the 6th meeting, you present your offer. They choose you over competitors with better products and lower prices. This is the mere exposure effect, where repeated exposure creates familiarity. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort creates preference. Frequency beats intensity every single time. Your brain is wired to trust what it recognizes. The more often you encounter something, the safer it feels. Safety translates into liking, even when there's no logical reason for the preference. The person you see most often becomes the person you trust most, regardless of their actual merit. A company's logo appears everywhere on billboards, social media storefronts. People start preferring that brand without ever seeing a single advertisement about the product itself. You attend networking events, consistently showing up month after month. People gravitate toward you automatically, choosing to work with you over strangers with better credentials. With your boss, you schedule brief 5-minute check-ins 3 times a week. You build more influence than colleagues who have long quarterly meetings. The pattern holds presence compounds, creating trust that persuasion never could. Here's what unsuccessful people miss: the most skilled person doesn't win. The most visible person wins. Competence without presence is invisible. Presence without competence still creates opportunity. Combine both and you become unstoppable. Consistency beats intensity. 10 5-minute interactions build more trust than one 50-minute conversation. Show up at the right places at the right times consistently without pressure or agenda. On social media, post regularly and briefly, rather than creating one massive post, then disappearing for months. The algorithm rewards frequency, but more importantly, human psychology rewards it. People need to see you often enough that you become part of their mental landscape. Presence beats persuasion. Show up enough, and people will love you without knowing why. Trick 12. The pratfall effect. Your presentation is flawless. Every slide perfect, every word rehearsed. Then you forget one slide and laugh. Getting old, my brain is glitching. The audience doesn't see failure, they see humanity. And suddenly they like you, more than if you'd been perfect. This is the pratfall effect, where small, harmless mistakes make competent people more likable. Because flaws create relatability. Perfection creates distance. People admire perfection, but they don't connect with it. A small flaw in someone capable makes them approachable, real human. The flaw doesn't diminish respect, it enhances affection. But this only works if you've already established competence. Flaws without competence just look like incompetence. A leader admits, "I'm terrible at Excel, that's why I need talented people like you." The team sees authenticity and trusts them more deeply. On a date, you accidentally knock over a glass of water, then laugh at yourself. Your date finds it endearing rather than awkward. In sales, you mention, "The product has one minor limitation." Then explain it honestly. The customer trusts your transparency and buys, whereas hiding flaws would have created suspicion. Here's the paradox. Weaknesses highlight strengths, but only when you're already strong. A weak person making mistakes just confirms their weakness. A strong person making small mistakes becomes more human without losing respect. Only use this when you've already established credibility and capability. The mistake must be small and unrelated to your core competence. A surgeon can joke about being bad at cooking, but never about being bad at surgery. Acknowledge the flaw yourself before others point it out. Self-awareness neutralizes criticism. If you wait for others to notice, it becomes a real problem instead of an endearing quirk. Strong people don't pretend to be perfect. Admitting small flaws multiplies large strengths. Trick 13. The spotlight effect. You're about to present and you're terrified because you think everyone is watching, judging, analyzing every word. In reality, 90% of the audience is thinking about what they're having for dinner. This is the spotlight effect, where you believe you're the center of attention when actually nobody is paying nearly as much attention as you fear. Your brain makes you the protagonist of every story, so you assume everyone else sees you that way too. But everyone is the protagonist of their own story, consumed by their own concerns. They're not watching you, they're thinking about themselves. This realization is both humbling and liberating. An employee hesitates to try something new because they fear looking foolish. You tell them, nobody will remember if you make a mistake. They're all too worried about their own work. Suddenly, they take risks they avoided for years. You realize that the embarrassing thing you did 5 years ago that still haunts you, nobody else remembers it. They were too busy worrying about their own embarrassments. In presentations, you learn that the audience doesn't remember your words. They only remember the feeling you created. Focus shifts from perfection to energy, and performance improves. Here's the freedom nobody tells you about. Everyone is too busy with their own spotlight to shine one on you. You're not on stage. You're in a theater full of people who each think they're on stage. The liberation comes when you realize nobody is watching because they can't see past their own reflection. Tell anxious people, nobody remembers, just try. Share your own mistakes openly so they see that failure is acceptable and forgettable. Create a culture where failing equals learning rather than failing equals shame. When people stop fearing judgment, they start taking action. Want others to be brave. Tell them nobody is watching. And even if they are, they'll forget in 5 minutes. Trick 14. The Barnum Effect. You're meeting a new client. You say thoughtfully, "I can see you're someone who values family above all else, but you also need personal space sometimes." They nod enthusiastically, thinking you understand them deeply. This is the Barnum effect, where vague statements that apply to 99% of people feel deeply personal to each individual who hears them. These statements work because they're universally true, but phrased as if they're specific insights. Everyone wants to be understood. So when you say something that feels accurate, they assume you see them clearly, even when you've said something that applies to literally everyone. In sales, you tell a prospect, "You're careful with money, but you also don't want to miss good opportunities." They feel seen and understood, even though this describes virtually every human being. A coach tells a client, "You have enormous potential, but sometimes you doubt yourself." The client is amazed at this accuracy that applies to 100% of people. A leader tells their team, "You're all highly capable, but need clearer direction." The team feels understood, even though every team needs direction. Here's what makes this ethical rather than manipulative. You're not lying. You're saying what people think, but haven't articulated. You're giving voice to universal human experiences. The connection is real, even if the statement is general. Use this to establish initial rapport and create a bridge of understanding. But don't stop there. After the Barnum opening, move into genuine specifics based on real observation. Combine vague universals with accurate particulars to create deep connection. The Barnum effect opens the door. Authentic empathy walks through it. People want to be understood. Barnum opens the door, but real empathy enters the room. Trick. The IKEA effect. Your employee designs a new workflow themselves. When you suggest improvements, they defend it fiercely, even though it's clearly not optimal. Why? Because I built this. This is the IKEA effect, where effort invested creates emotional attachment that makes people value something far more than its objective worth. When people put work into creating something, they become emotionally invested in its success. The effort itself bonds them to the outcome. They don't love it because it's good, they love it because it's theirs. This works with physical objects, with ideas, with relationships, with anything requiring personal investment. You let your child build their own toy instead of buying one pre-made. They treasure their imperfect creation far more than any expensive toy you could buy. On a project, you involve the team in the design process from the beginning, rather than presenting a finished plan. Their commitment multiplies because they feel ownership. A product allows customers to customize features to their preferences. Those customers stay loyal far longer because they've invested themselves into the product. Here's the principle successful leaders understand. If you want people to love the outcome, let them participate in the process. Ownership isn't granted. It's created through involvement. Don't complete everything, then hand it over. Involve them from the start, even if their contributions are small. Acknowledge the effort they've invested. Recognition amplifies attachment. Celebrate, we built this together, rather than, I gave you this. The pronoun matters. We creates ownership, you and I create separation. Ownership isn't given. It's created through participation. Trick 16. The endowment effect. You offer a customer a 7-day free trial of your product. After 1 week, they feel it's theirs and can't imagine giving it back. The return rate drops to nearly zero. This is the endowment effect, where possession, even temporary possession, makes the brain assign vastly higher value to something, creating a powerful resistance to loss. Once someone holds something, owns it even briefly, their brain recategorizes it from external object to my possession. Loss aversion kicks in immediately. Returning it feels like losing something that belongs to them, even though logically they never owned it in the first place. The moment of possession rewrites the entire relationship. A sales strategy offers, try it free for 1 week, and 80% of customers keep it. Not necessarily because the product is exceptional, but because giving it back feels like a loss. You give your child a choice between 2 options, letting them own the decision. They're far happier with the outcome than if you'd simply told them what to do. In negotiations, you let the other party hold the draft contract for a few days. When you meet again, they're more inclined to agree because they've psychologically taken ownership of the document. Here's the insight that changes everything. Possession creates value where none existed before. Want to sell something? Don't show it. Let them experience owning it first. The trial period isn't about testing the product, it's about creating psychological ownership. Make trial periods as long as possible. The longer they possess it, the stronger the attachment. Use possessive language deliberately. Say, your account and your settings, not the account or our system. Let them customize and personalize whatever they're considering. Every modification increases the sense of ownership, making it harder to walk away. People don't buy what they see. They buy what they feel they already own. Trick 17. The serial position effect. You're designing a presentation. You place your strongest points at the beginning and the end, burying your weaknesses in the middle. When the audience leaves, they remember you as brilliant, completely forgetting the mediocre content sandwiched between your peaks. This is the serial position effect, where the brain clearly remembers the first and last items in a sequence while forgetting most of what came between. Your brain doesn't record information democratically. It prioritizes the opening, because that's when attention is highest, and the closing, because that's the most recent impression. Everything in the middle blurs together into forgettable background noise. Position determines impact more than content quality. You're writing a resume. Your top achievements go first and last, with filler content in the middle that nobody will remember anyway. In meetings, You deliver critical information at the start, when everyone is fresh, and repeat it at the end. As a recap, knowing the middle discussion will largely fade from memory. An advertisement opens with a compelling hook and closes with a clear call to action. Understanding that the content between them matters far less than those two anchor points. Here's the truth about communication. Position equals value. Identical information placed at different points in a sequence will have vastly different impacts. The middle is where information goes to die. The beginning and end are where memory lives. Open with something shocking or exciting that captures attention immediately. Use the middle for supporting details and context, accepting that much of it will be forgotten. That's not failure, it's psychology. Close with something actionable and memorable, ensuring your final impression is the one they carry away. Never waste the beginning or ending on throwaway content. Those are your two golden positions. Don't waste the beginning and the end. Those are gold. Trick 18. The McGurk effect. You say bar while moving your mouth as if saying far. The person listening hears far, even though the audio says bar. Their eyes override their ears. This is the McGurk effect, where visual information overpowers auditory information, proving that your brain trusts what it sees more than what it hears. When there's conflict between what your eyes see and what your ears hear, vision wins almost every time. This means that in any communication, body language and visual presentation carry more weight than the actual words being spoken. You can say all the right things, but if your body contradicts your words, people believe your body. You say, "I'm confident," while your hands shake and your eyes dart around the room. Nobody believes you, no matter how many times you repeat the words. On a video call, you turn off your camera and speak eloquently. The impact is far weaker than if you'd kept the camera on with average speaking ability. In presentations, beautiful slides combined with poor delivery outperform ugly slides with excellent delivery, because visual processing dominates the experience. Here's the communication breakdown. Nobody teaches 7% of impact comes from words, 38% from tone of voice, 55% from body language. You can say the right thing with the wrong body language and fail completely. The message isn't what you say, it's what they see while you're saying it. Synchronize everything. Your words, facial expressions, and gestures must align perfectly. When speaking about confidence, stand straight. Maintain eye contact. Keep your hands open and visible. When creating presentations or videos, invest heavily in visual design, because that's where perception forms. Your audience will remember how it looked far more clearly than what you said. Words are cheap. Actions and visuals are expensive. Want to persuade? Let them see it, not just hear it. Trick 19. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. You mention a concept casually in a meeting. A week later, you mention it again in a different context. Within a month, people start thinking, this trend is everywhere right now. This is the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, where the first exposure primes the brain to notice something, creating the illusion that it's suddenly everywhere, when really it was always there. The first time you hear about something, your brain flags it as potentially relevant. From that moment on, you unconsciously filter information, noticing every instance of that thing while ignoring everything else. The frequency hasn't increased. Your attention has shifted. But your brain interprets heightened awareness as heightened prevalence. You mention your brand 3 times across 1 month, through different channels. Customers start thinking, everyone is talking about this company, even though they've only encountered it through your deliberate placement. A leader repeats the company vision in different formats: meetings, emails, presentations. The team begins believing, this is our number one priority, because they keep encountering it. You float an idea through multiple channels: casual conversation, email, presentation. People start thinking, this idea has real momentum, when actually it's just you planting seeds systematically. Here's the manipulation. Nobody admits brains create popularity from repetition. You don't need your idea to actually be trending. You just need to make it look like it's trending by ensuring repeated exposure. Seed information across different sources to create the impression of independent confirmation. Time your mentions 3 to 7 days apart to maximize the effect without triggering spam detection. Make each appearance feel natural and spontaneous rather than coordinated. The moment people sense you're orchestrating it, the illusion shatters. Popularity can be manufactured. Strategic repetition creates the illusion that everyone is talking about this. Trick 20. The frequency illusion. You mention retirement planning to a client, then end the conversation. Over the next 2 weeks, they suddenly notice retirement planning articles everywhere. News stories about pension crises, advertisements for financial services. They call you back convinced the universe is sending them a message. This is the frequency illusion, where mentioning a concept activates their attention filter, making them see evidence everywhere, and ultimately convincing themselves without you having to persuade them. When you plant an idea, you're not just sharing information, you're activating a search algorithm in their brain. From that moment on, they unconsciously scan their environment for related content. Every instance they notice reinforces the importance of the concept-building conviction through apparent external validation rather than your direct persuasion. A salesperson asks, "Have you thought about insurance lately?" The customer says no, and the conversation ends. Over the next week, the customer notices every accident, every health scare, every news story about unexpected disasters. They call back ready to buy because their brain has collected overwhelming evidence. A coach tells a client, "Pay attention to body language in your interactions." The client suddenly notices body language everywhere, in every meeting, every conversation, becoming self-educated through observation. A parent tells their child, "Watch how successful people speak." The child begins studying communication patterns in everyone they meet, learning without formal instruction. Here's the leverage point: you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Just activate their attention on a topic, then let the world persuade them for you. Their brain will find evidence everywhere, building conviction through apparent coincidence. Plant the seed by mentioning the concept clearly and memorably. Don't push or over-explain, just introduce it. Then step back. Let them discover it on their own. Follow up 1 to 2 weeks later with a casual, "Have you noticed?" And they'll enthusiastically confirm that yes, they've been seeing it everywhere and thinking about it constantly. The best persuasion is letting people persuade themselves.